our bodies want to stay doing the same thing. And when you try to do
Yeah.
something new, it doesn't like it. So I think it was bringing up that familiar feeling of you don't have to do this. You don't have to deprive yourself.
Yeah.
I think that was what was coming up.
And do you think any of it was like not to fit in, but to feel normal? Like I can eat all these things. Like I'm like everybody else because I know sometimes stuff like
You
that
know,
can
it's
be funny.
ironic. My phone's ringing right now and it's the nutritionist. Hi, Catherine. Just so you know, when you listen to this episode, it's literally you calling right now. I'll call you back.
Ears were ringing. Hi, I'm Jen.
And I'm Suzanne. Welcome, friend. Today we are talking about self-sabotage.
Dun dun
Do,
dun
do,
dun.
do. And today it's my story of self-sabotage. So I began an elimination diet about a month ago. So if you don't know what an elimination diet is, in my particular case, I am basically going back to vegetables and then moving forward into things to see how my body reacts to them. So you eliminate things and then you slowly add them back. I know people do all sorts of different elimination diets, but this was the one in particular that I was doing. And I've had this feeling, and I'm wondering if you have too, where you're cruising along and you just are freaking rocking it. Like you feel super good. You're doing all the things. I'm eating all of the things in a good way. And it's almost like a high in a way, right? Like, oh my gosh, I'm
Totally.
doing so great. And I'm telling all my friends. And then we have friends over about a week ago. And
Was that
I
Super Bowl?
start, yes, it was.
Okay.
And I start seeing all the apps that everyone brings, right? And I'm
Ooh
thinking to
la la.
myself, oh, well, maybe I'll just have one of those apps. And the voice in my head starts in saying, well, yeah, Suzanne, you can do anything you want. Like, no one's going to tell you that you're not entitled to have this. And at that moment, I felt so empowered. Like, heck yeah, no one can tell me what I can eat and can't eat or can and can't eat. So I have a few things and I try it. And now I'm telling myself, well, it's just a few things. You just head back and get back to it tomorrow. And I've done
For
that
sure.
a ton of times in my life where I'm fine the next day. Except on this particular occasion, my inner voice starts in telling me, oh, you feel so much better now that you've had this food. I don't know what you were thinking trying to eat that way. You don't even feel this good. You deserve to have different food,
Ooh.
Suzanne. You deserve to have better food. And by better food, I mean
Better. I was
all
like
of
air
the
quote
crap,
better. Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
Like the fast food, the sweets, the Diet Pepsi, because your girl
Oh,
is a Diet Pepsi
she's
lover.
back.
And
She's
during
back.
this elimination diet, I had not had any Diet Pepsi. I was also telling myself or finding my voice saying, no one can take this away from you. I don't know who Catherine is. So Catherine is the nutritionist, the sweetest person who has also specifically told me, I don't want you to be too restrictive, Suzanne, because we're not trying to increase your stress. The whole point is to decrease your stress. Yet in my head, the villainization began of poor Catherine. And it's just unconscious. It was like, I don't know who she thinks she is. She can't tell me what I can and can't eat. And it's horrifying to say these things out loud, people. Like, it is this is not my rational thinking. I just want to remind people this is the voice in my head that now I can look back and say, oh, this was all the things it was saying. So,
Mm-hmm.
needless to say, I did not slow up. I shoved all the food and ate all the food for about a week. And the first 3 days, I felt so empowered. I felt like, oh my gosh, like, that's right. No one's going to tell me what to do. And then as the voices started to creep inside my head of
The other voices.
the other voices, the shame started in, right? The
Ooh, the
shame of I
shame
can't.
spiral.
Oh, yes. It came on hard and fast. And it was, I can't believe that you've eaten this. What were you thinking? But it wasn't enough to stop me. No, no. We went on for a few more days, for a full week, until such time as I was like, Suzanne, this is enough. This is enough. And what you're doing right now is not helpful. You feel like crap, right? Because that immediate high went away. Now I feel terrible. I feel completely inflamed. I'm feeling all the crazy symptoms. And I have so much shame. I don't want to tell you. I don't want to tell my family. I want to keep it all to myself. I certainly don't want to admit it to my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a familiar feeling that I've had so many times in my life where, and I think the difference is before I would have thought, what the hell is wrong with me? Like, I can't control myself. This is ridiculous. And I just allow myself into this shame spiral that would probably last a couple weeks, if not more,
Yeah.
if I'm being honest.
If not more. So let's stop you there.
Okay.
Let's unpack this a little bit, because I'm sure our listener is like, what is happening? We are now a week in. I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah.
We've all been there. Everybody has their things. I like to say they're things that they have patterns of just repeating and the same thing. So let's go back to Sunday, Super Bowl. Yes, all the food. Hello. What was it that made you, like, I guess, what was the feeling you had? Was it like that you were feeling deprived of being able to have those things? Like what, like if you think back, because I think that's like the most important, like what triggered off, if that's a word, I don't even know if that's a phrase, but like what
right.
set off, triggered or set off, I just came up with triggered off. What sort of sparked that whole, I don't know, it's
Cycle.
like a whole set of yes.
I've been really thinking about that. And I think it was a little bit deprivation, right? I
For
felt
sure.
deprived.
Absolutely.
Two, I really think I was sabotaging myself. Like my body and my mind was unhappy. Not my body. My mind was unhappy that I was doing something new. And I now know the science tells me that our bodies want to stay doing the same thing. And when you try to do something new, it doesn't like it. So I think it was bringing up that familiar feeling of, you don't have to do this. You don't have to deprive yourself.
Yeah.
I think that was what was coming up.
And do you think any of it was like, not to fit in, but to feel normal? Like, I can eat all these things. Like, I'm like everybody else. Because I know sometimes stuff like that.
It's ironic. My phone's ringing right now, and it's the nutritionist. Hi, Catherine. Just so you know, when you listen to this episode, it's literally you calling right now. I'll call you back.
Ears were ringing. If you need a functional medicine referral, she is also a nutritionist, but a functional medicine referral, please DM us, because we have a really great one. So anyways, we digress.
Yes.
Shout out, Catherine. So did you have any of that? Was it like because you were different? Because I know sometimes people, like if they have food restrictions or really anything that they can't do that everybody else is doing, even as adults, sometimes it's uncomfortable because people then end up asking you a ton of questions. So I was just curious if that played into it at all. Like, why are you doing an elimination diet? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, they want to know all the things.
So I have discovered about myself that is not generally what I do. I have a little bit of an opposite or a different response. My response tends to be the puff up of the chest of seeking perfection and about how proud I am of myself, about how I've been doing everything perfectly and how I'm just so perfect.
Oh, Susie,
if
perfection.
You don't hear my sarcasm, please hear it. It is like this deflated person who comes out, and then when I'm not perfect, it's like I set myself up for failure.
So it was like those first tastes, like almost like an addict. Like all you had to do is, and then by then, instead of saying like, that's my favorite appetizer and I'm definitely having a little bit of it, and then moving back on to being your normal elimination diet, you're like, wow, it's like I think we call it our all or nothing attitude.
For sure.
Well, I've already screwed up. So you know what? And then instead of saying I've already screwed up, you know what? You say, I deserve this.
Oh,
This
yes.
is mine to take, and nobody tells me what to do. And then instead of feeling the shame early on of I screwed up, or I feel badly about this, or it turns out I don't feel as good about having a little bit of this as I thought I was going to feel, and addressing it in that moment. Because if you would have said to yourself, like, man, I thought when I ate this, I was going to feel better because I got to have a little treat of something I liked. Or even if you just took the whole afternoon to have, all the things. And then you were like, oh, it didn't really feel as good as I thought. And in fact, I actually feel kind of yucky about it. And you would have addressed it like right then. We would have been on a different path. So that's what I was trying to get our listener to hear. And only because we've been doing this forever. The shame spirals. So, anywho, that didn't happen. And instead of feeling the shame, which is like what we're trying to encourage everyone, like just feel the feeling. It's just a feeling. It comes and it goes. And then instead of feeling the feeling, I would say, based on what you just said, you were like, I deserve this. And like your powerful self came through, but it's like a fake powerful self. It's like an alter ego that's just lying to you.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too, it's masking, right? That's the thing. It's masking what the actual issue is. And what I've learned too is like with this kind of stuff is I don't necessarily get it the first time. Like I really have to think about it. And it oftentimes clarity comes later, right? With us talking about it. And then you kind of just continue to get like more and deeper. But I think
also really quick, I think that's a false thing we all tell ourselves. I was just talking to my husband about this. We all think that we're the only ones that struggle. We all think that we're the only ones that don't get it perfect the first time. Like for whatever reason, I don't know what the psychology is. I should probably do some research on that. But everyone always thinks that like, well, I should have done that perfect the first time. Like nobody does anything perfect the first time. Like nobody, not your kids, not me, not you, not our husbands, not our friends, not the listener, like literally nobody. So when you say like, oh, I just, I thought I should have done better. Really? Because that's like a really unrealistic expectation.
Yes. It's very very impassioned, Jen.
Is anyone watching this? Because she is looking at me like she's going to throw some daggers. I don't think she liked that one. We'll probably have to revisit that one in a while. But it's only
for sure. No, it's true. It's true.
Like, why would anyone in their right mind, including me, doing anything new? Like you said, you're doing a new elimination diet. Why would you be perfect? No one would be perfect. No one. Literally no one ever. In the history of all the evers would be perfect.
It's true. And if I look back, I think of how far I've actually come, right? If we're going to look at comparison of before, like I said, I would have been gone for weeks and maybe would have come back. I would have had so much shame. I certainly would have never spoken to the nutritionist. I would have not admitted it to my friends. I would have not admitted it to you. And instead, within a week, I was admitting it to everyone, including on this podcast, to any person listening globally. And yeah, I'm growing. So yeah. It's important to have a little bit of grace with myself.
And also going back to the original, that day when we could have felt the feeling, right? Which we all don't want to feel the feeling. Just identifying right now that you could have felt the feeling and maybe stopped the shame spiral for a week. The reality is what you just said. You stopped that's too many S's. You stopped a shame cycle for literally what normally would have been a month for you. So it's not about being perfect, like healing, changing, doing anything new. And like you said, psychology legit says your brain, no matter how messed up your normal is, will always go back to normal. So if you are coming from a chaotic life, it will be like, let's just go back to chaos. It's going to be so much better.
It's so true.
It's constantly whispering to you like, I know that's abusive, but like it's so much better. I know that makes you feel like crap, but it's so much better. But it's not. It's just your brain going like, let's go back to my my homeostasis or whatever the
Yeah.
scientific word is.
Homeostasis.
Homeostasis.
Friend,
What's new? I make up
the
words.
best part about Jen is she makes up words often. It's a favorite of mine. So that's another one.
But
I know what you're talking about.
I have dyslexia. I've now just said, oh, it's because of that.
It's my fave. I love it.
Also because my son does it. So I've just decided that's what we do. I'll almost get there. But anywho, we digress.
Yes. And, I had a whole spiel about what today meant and but the truth is, you're so right. Like, good on me that I stopped it after a week. Like, let's just stop there. What about if we just celebrate that and say, good job?
What about the 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever you did it? The elimination diet that you were doing great.
Yes.
Like, what about that?
Yes. Good job, Suzanne.
And here's the other thing. Would you ever, if your son came to you and said, I'm doing so good, and then this happened, would you ever say to him, I'm really upset you're not perfect. You should go on a shame spiral. Don't come see me for a month.
It's so much easier, right? When it's not us. We have to work so hard. If you said that to me, I'd be like, Jennifer, come on, right? Yeah, it's my kid. I'd be like, God, no. But
I mean, we laugh about it, but that's how ridiculous our mind is. That's how ridiculous, like all the things we've told ourselves for some of us longer than others.
Yeah.
It's just your mind messing with you.
Yeah. And and I think too, just self-sabotage. It's a real thing. And I think you're right about having grace for myself and grace in the situation, but also some pride about what I have been doing and the choices I'm making. And I am super excited about how much better I felt. And and now you do know that you don't feel well when you do all the things. And I was just about to say, and I was going to note too, that I actually feel better. And to have that's empowering. And I think, right, that's the whole reason we're doing this is also, I think I would wrap it up and just say, being honest. I think unbeknownst to me, I wasn't being totally honest when we started this. I think I was trying to be honest, but I think I was still spinning it in, oh, don't worry. Look, I fixed it. I'm okay. Yeah. I'm okay. And I didn't even realize it until and we started talking, and gosh, it's something I just keep working on and not even realize that it's happening. So that's why we're doing this, because we're certainly not immune from it.
Right? Like, this is all discovery, like discovering of what you're telling yourself, discovering of what you could have done different, but also discovering what you did right and what you did well and what you should be proud of. I think that's all part of the discovery. It's not just like, let's find the negative thing and fix it. Like, I think that's what people think it is, and it's just not.
For sure.
Well, I don't think it's helpful.
No, and it's not how I want to raise my kids, right? Like, that's another part of it is I would never speak that way to you or to my kids or to anyone else. And yet, here I am, still working on it.
Well,
I think it's just today I'm just going to have the two things. I'm going to have an acknowledgement as I wrap it up, an acknowledgement of I'm super proud of myself for all the hard work I am doing. And, but I think perhaps most importantly is I was really honest today with myself and with you and my friend listening, because I think that might be sometimes the hardest part for me.
For sure. And I would ask our listener, what is something that you are self-sabotaging you? Like, has there been like something you can look back now based on this story from Suzanne and say to myself, like, ooh, I definitely self-sabotage. Like, maybe there's a pattern. Maybe it's just something in the last week, and it could be something small. Hers was like a week-long thing, but just ask yourself, is there something that I am self-sabotaging myself. And that's it. No shame spiral needed.
Yeah. So we will see you next time. Same place, same sisterhood. Bye.
Bye.